homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to Manjushri, homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme, profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta before teaching. Now, let us continue our study of the Bodhicharyavatara, ocean of good explanation. At this point, we are currently discussing the 7-branch offering. Previously, we've already discussed the offerings of ownerless things as within the 7-branch offering. Today, we begin the section on offering one's own body. Section 2, offering the body. The verse expresses it in this way. Forevermore I offer all my bodies to the victorious ones and their offspring. Sublime beings, please accept me completely, and I will be your devoted servant. This is the verse. The commentary explains it as follows. Before the Buddhas who have conquered the 4 Maras and all their Bodhisattva children, I vow to continually offer my own body and sincerely request all the noble Bodhisattvas to fully accept this offering. In other words, we have already offered this body to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. Each of us harbors a certain self-clinging, and it is essential that we completely overcome this self-grasping. If we do not, we will always act out of self-interest, continually creating karma. As I mentioned previously, I willingly become your devoted servant. Obeying your every word, I pray that you will compassionately accept me. This is the way we should visualize. This is the essential meaning. Of course, when we speak of the Buddha, we refer to one who has completely transcended all cognitive obscurations and afflictive obscurations, and has also conquered the 4 Maras. These are the Mara of the aggregates, the Mara of the Lord of Death, the Mara of the sons of the gods, and the Mara of afflictions. Such a Buddha is also called a victorious one, the Tathagata, and so on. In all, he is called by 10 different names. So before all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, we should first offer our own bodies. But is it that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas need our bodies? Of course not. The real benefit is that when we offer our bodies to such sublime fields of merit, it helps to diminish our own self-clinging. As our self-grasping is reduced, it becomes easier to benefit sentient beings, generate bodhicitta, and engage in virtuous deeds. Why is it that throughout this cycle of existence, we endlessly bound in samsara, unable to attain liberation? Because this sense of I keeps us trapped and unable to attain liberation. The root cause of this is self-grasping. Therefore, we should try possible method we can to offer our body, possessions, and roots of virtue. Especially, we are extremely attached to our body. If we did not have this attachment, the karma created through the body would not arise. So first, we must offer our body as an act of generosity. This is clearly recorded in the Buddhist scriptures. In the past, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions have greatly praised such acts. Since ancient times, great masters and accomplished beings have also highly praised and diligently practiced such virtuous deeds. Especially for us as Mahayana Buddhists, we must strive to reduce our attachment to the body. If we cannot completely eliminate it, at least we should reduce our attachment. Most people in the world do not think this way. Many people today spend all day dressing up, adorning, decorating, or being attached to their bodies. They are always busy with their bodies. Every day they are running around for this body. There are also people who have never really understood the nature of this so-called I. In front of such people, we should also do our best to share the Mahayana teachings on the merit of offering one's body. From the perspective of the sutras, for example, such as the Shurangama Sutra, this is also taught. When it comes to offering the body from a symbolic perspective in Han Buddhism, it is common to see the practice of burning one's fingers as an offering to the Buddha. This is a form of offering one's body to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The Shurangama Sutra also teaches, if one is able, in front of the image of the Tathagata, one can burn one's own body, or burn one's finger joints, or burn precept scars on the body, and so on. If one does this, the Buddha said, I say that such a person repays all beginningless karmic debts at once. In other words, those who offer their body or burn their fingers as an offering to the Buddha, according to the Buddha's words, if they can do this, then all their karmic debts accumulated since beginningless time will be completely repaid in a single moment, purified at once. all the results will be experienced and exhausted. This is what is taught. There were such cases in the history of Han Buddhism. For example, there was a master named Chunjin. He once burned his fingers in front of the Buddha for the benefit of beings. During his life, he did this before the Buddha statues of many monasteries, such as Pushu Monastery and Ashoka Monastery. For the benefit of sentient beings, to eliminate drought and so on, he performed the practice of burning his fingers as an offering to the Buddha, and in the end only 6 fingers remained, so people called him the six-fingered elder. There are such accounts. There was also Master Zhenyi from Sichuan who burned his fingers as an offering in front of a Buddha statue. Besides, in order to eliminate all kinds of distracting thoughts in his mind stream, he made 108 precept scars on his own chest. He also made 9 precept scars on his acupuncture points, and so on. By burning his own body with fire, on the one hand, he expressed his sincerity before all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. On the other hand, he demonstrated that he was not particularly attached to his own body. Such an act is also found in Tibetan Buddhism, according to historical records. For example, in the presence of Chakme Rinpoche or Mifam Rinpoche, many devoted disciples made such offerings. Thus, there is a history of offering burning fingers to the Buddha, so we can see that in order to truly give up one's body completely, or at least reduce one's attachment to it, such practices as burning one's finger as an offering to the Buddha can be very meaningful. There was a master named Jamyang Kongtrul Rinpoche. In one of his collections of questions and answers, he also said, in the Sutrayana, burning one's finger as an offering to the Buddha is established as a means to eliminate attachment in one's own mind stream. But in Vajrayana, since one visualizes one's own body as the pure mandala of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, in such a case, actually, it is not necessary to burn one's finger. Of course, this depends on the degree of afflictive attachment in one's own mind stream. If we follow the view of Vajrayana, if one is truly inseparable from the mandala of the Tathagata, or if one has no attachment to the body and regards it as a pure mandala, then from the perspective of Vajrayana, not burning one's finger as an offering to the Buddha is acceptable. If a practitioner of Sutrayana still has strong attachment to the body or holds a view that the body is impure, then there is nothing wrong with performing the practice of burning one's finger as an offering to the Buddha. The burning the finger as an offering is just one example to illustrate this point. In fact, there are many ways to offer our body to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. There are many such methods. Why do I say this? For example, before the Buddha or before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas or before one's guru, if we sincerely offer our body, speech, and mind completely, this will bring a certain amount of merit. Why is this? Because our attachment to our body is the greatest. If someone even slightly comments that our body is not good looking or that we are short, tall, or fat, as soon as we hear this, we immediately get angry or upset. This happens often, which shows that our attachment to our body is quite strong. If we offer our body to our guru or to the Dharma, then from that point on, we really have no reason to be especially attached to our body. When we make such an offering with our body, if our mind is not pure, it may not be so good. In the past, when performing burning the finger as an offering, because burning our own finger is extremely painful and it may cause some regret arise in our mind stream. Of course, it will be very difficult not to arise regret. For us, ordinary people, when we truly experience physical pain, it is quite difficult not to feel regret. Of course, cases like the guru of Lord Atisha, Dharmarakshita, who offered his body while he was still an ordinary being, inspired by his strong and intense compassion without feeling regret, also exist. But generally, when we actually burn our finger with fire, it's very possible that we will regret. To avoid such regret, we should first take time to reflect our own mind. This is quite important. Of course, if we wish to make the offering of our body in front of our guru, we should also consider all possibilities carefully first. When many people first arrive with strong faith, they say want to offer the body, speech, and mind completely to the Guru. His Holiness also mentioned this before. When many people first arrive, they say they will offer their body, speech, and mind completely. But after a while, their body, speech, and mind are all gone. They take their body back. Strictly speaking, this body is no longer theirs. It should belong to the guru. If they take it back, does that count as violating the precept of no stealing? So, for the benefit of sentient beings, it is also fine to offer our body in this way. Even if we do not make such an offering, if we make the aspiration in our heart, this body, this impure body of mine, from now until the end of my life, I will dedicate it to serving the Dharma. If we make such a vow, I believe that it is no different to offer our body to the Buddhism or to our guru. We can all reflect on this. Of course, as a being in the desire realm, I have to take care of my own food and daily life. But apart from that, in my lifetime, I will do my best to serve and work for the Buddhism. If we give rise to such an aspiration, this is also a way of offering our body to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So, we should give rise to bodhicitta in our own mind stream. First, we offer the most precious, rare, and beloved things to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. One by one, we offer them all up. If we do not perform such actions, if we remain very attached to our body and actions, then it will be very difficult for the altruistic, selfless bodhicitta to arise in our minds. This is how we should understand this point. The next verse says, because you have accepted me completely, not fearing existence, I will benefit beings. I will transcend my previous misdeeds and never do another wrong again. In the commentary, it is explained as follows. It is by relying on the protection of the great lords that I am able, in the three realms, to benefit beings without fear of suffering. With the protection and blessings of the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Gurus, with their protection and blessings, we are able to benefit sentient beings without any fear, even in the midst of samsara. If I am weighed down by heavy negative karma, I will not be able to benefit others. Of course, if my own negative karma is very heavy, then it will be very difficult for me to benefit sentient beings. As the Vimalakirti Sutra states, if we are still bound, how can we free others? The meaning is, if our own body is bound by all kinds of negative karma and afflictions, how can we untie the afflictions in others' mind streams or their bondage? This is simply impossible. So, at the very least, we should first give rise to an altruistic intention in ourselves. To be a truly devoted Buddhist is very important. If we can't even do this, but always say, I want to benefit sentient beings, I want to help others, then will we really be able to fulfill this aspiration? It will be quite difficult. Therefore, to truly be free from past negative karma, one must sincerely confess and vow never to create such karma again. So, we should make this kind of vow. Here, many teachers explain this section using the 4 powers of purification. Because we have already offered our body before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, after making this offering, they have already accepted us. Now, as practitioners, we should work for the benefit of all sentient beings. Why? Because the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have taken us under their care. So, we have become a part of the Buddha's family. If I am now one of them, then the only activity of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is to spread the Dharma and benefit sentient beings. Other than benefiting beings, do they have any other activities? Absolutely not. Every Bodhisattva, every Buddha, only wishes to help all sentient beings as limitless as space. So if I want to benefit beings, the first thing I must do is to respect all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and benefit beings through the Dharma. Secondly, I must purify the negative karma in my own mind stream. In this context, many great masters explain the following verses in terms of the 4 powers of purification. For example, the first is the power of support. As we all know, this refers to the 3 jewels, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, or one's own root guru. These serve as the power of support in this context. Next is the power of regret. All the negative karma we have created in our mind streams in the past, now we deeply regret as if we had taken poison. Having this sense of regret in our hearts, the power of regret. Next is the power of action as an antidote. Through various practices, such as reciting the 100-syllable mantra, cultivating bodhicitta, or visualizing vajrasattva, and so on. Through these actions, we begin to purify the negative karma. When body and mind become purified, this is called the power of action as an antidote. Finally, there is the power of resolve. It is like after drinking poison, one vow never to drink it again. In the same way, if we have committed unwholesome actions of body, speech, and mind, from now on, before all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, we should make a vow never to commit such negative actions again. Therefore, many teachers explain the last 2 lines as referring to these principles. They interpret it in this way. I think that the principle of offering the body is not only recorded in the life stories of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but also in Tibetan Buddhism, in the biographies of many masters of the past, such as Milarepa. It's very clear that in order to seek the Dharma, they practiced austerities, even offering their own lives and bodies. This, in fact, is also a kind of offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. His Holiness has also said that among all contaminated offerings, the merit of offering the body is the greatest. But as we have discussed, whether we are making offerings before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas or before the Guru, if we wish to offer our body, first we really need to examine ourselves carefully. If we don't reflect thoroughly and act too hastily, or make offerings without proper consideration, if we casually offer our body later in our practice, if we lack a firm vow and lose faith, then this can actually become a significant obstacle. So first of all, when generating the motivation, we need to reflect on our own mind again and again. This is extremely important. That's why here I encourage you to let go of attachment to your body completely. Of course, it may be a bit difficult for us as ordinary beings. But through various Dharma teachings, we can reflect, is it really worth being so attached, this body? People in the world who have never studied the Dharma spend all day worrying about their bodies. Is this really necessary? In fact, this body is just something we borrow for a few decades. Is it really worth creating so much negative karma for its sake? These are questions we should take time to analyze carefully and deeply with the wisdom of the Dharma, because nowadays many people who study the Dharma don't understand the profound principles. They think that learning Buddhism is just a temporary pursuit, like learning Qigong or some other skill. But to treat it this way is very unreasonable. Today I met a lay practitioner from Dandong. He said 2 things that I found very meaningful. He said that in our area there really aren't many people who study the Dharma, and generally in a big city out of 10,000 people, maybe only 1 or 2 study the Dharma. And most of these Buddhists are just study the Dharma for seeking good fortune in this life or in the next, or seeking rebirth in the human or God realms. Very few people truly understand the meaning of the Dharma. You could say they are as rare as stars at dawn. So I think what he said is very true. In the process of studying the Bodhicharyavatara, we should not only learn the principles of Mahayana Dharma, but also learn about the motivation for practicing the Dharma, and also the proper conduct in accordance with the Dharma, and so on. I hope that each day I can share some simple principles with you. I hope you will take all these essential points of the Dharma, whether from the commentary or from the verses, and use them to tame your own mind. This is very important. I've noticed that now, whether online or in some articles, many people are memorizing the Bodhicharyavatara. A lot of people feel very good about memorizing it, but I think since we are just starting out, we might feel good after memorizing a few verses at the beginning, and may still feel good after memorizing the last few verses. But we should have patience in our Dharma study. Otherwise, anyone can memorize the first few verses, but that's it. Most people here can only recite the first chapter. As for the later chapters, some people give up at the 2nd chapter, some at the 3rd, and some at the 8th. So, memorizing the text is not that easy. Memorizing 1 or 2 verses is not difficult. I think that's not hard. The hardest thing is to memorize the entire text all the way to the last verse. If you want to see Manjushri Bodhisattva, when you get to the last verse, you will feel very good. And I would be very happy for you. Of course, having this kind of faith is wonderful, especially for young people. Nowadays, our wisdom and memory are quite good in all respects. We shouldn't let our minds be filled with all sorts of worldly distractions. It shouldn't be like this. We should remember pure teachings, teachings on great compassion, wisdom, and selflessness. If we remember more and more of these teachings, then naturally our attachment to worldly things will gradually decrease. This is a natural law. For example, as the fire grows stronger, the cold around it decreases. As light shines more brightly in the world, the darkness of the world gradually disappears. This is an inevitable law. If there is no light of wisdom in our hearts, then the darkness of desire, anger, and ignorance will always cover our minds. So when it comes to the principle of giving up the body and offering it to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, it's important to have a positive understanding. Next, we will discuss offerings manifested by the power of the mind. Subsection 3, offerings manifested by the power of the mind. In some other treatises, it's explained that there are a total of 12 types of offerings manifested by the mind. These 12 types of offerings are summarized in a single verse: bathing, drying, offering exquisite robes and ornaments, incense, flowers, divine food, lamps, ground, palaces, and jeweled parasols. These are the 12 offerings created by the power of the mind. Next, these 12 types of offerings manifested by the mind are introduced one by one. There are 12 types of offerings manifested by the mind. The first is described in the verse as follows: within this sweetly fragrant house for bathing, where the bright and lustrous floors are paved with crystal, alluring pillars are aglow with jewels, and glistening pearls are draped in canopies. In the commentary, 1. Bathing. The annotation explains it as follows: the bathing room, scented with sandalwood, is filled with a delightful fragrance. The crystal floor is sparkling and radiant, and everything is spotlessly clean. On the radiant pillars made of various precious jewels, canopies adorned with shining pearls are suspended. Here, of course, the first offering is bathing. According to some Tibetan Buddhist texts, there are many verses and rituals dedicated to the offering of bathing. Here, it first describes the place of bathing. In the Sutrayana tradition, this is also a method of visualization. We often perform pure bathing rituals for the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Some of you might wonder, do Buddhas and Bodhisattvas also need to bathe? Does this mean their bodies are not clean? Some may think this way. Especially for beginners or those unfamiliar with Mahayana Buddhism, may have strong conceptual doubts. But there's no need to doubt this. Why is that? When we study the Prajnaparamita Sutras, or the ornament of clear realization, we learn that bodhisattvas, who upon reaching the level of the first bhumi, all physical impurities, dust, and even lice and insects, and all forms of impurity are absent. How much more so for a Buddha who is utterly free from such things? So why do we perform these bathing rituals? After performing these rituals, in fact, our own negative karma is purified in our mind streams. Why is this? Because the Buddha possesses a body of complete wisdom and all-pervading qualities. If we take the Buddha as our field of merit and perform the bathing ritual with a pure mind, then, as a result, in our own mind stream, all accumulations will be completed and all negative karma will be purified. This is the true purpose. So as Buddhists, we should understand the meaning of the bathing ritual for the Buddha. Generally speaking, this is found in all schools and traditions. Even in Theravada Buddhism, such practice exists. For example, in Singapore during Vesak, all the major temples and Buddhist centers decorate their entrances with all kinds of colorful banners, and in the midst of flower garlands, they perform the bathing ritual for the Buddha's image. Such rituals are very common. Even now in places like Yunnan, these rituals are practiced. Usually the Buddha's image is placed among flowers. Sometimes it is an image of Buddha Shakyamuni, sometimes it is the image of the Buddha at birth or other images. They use pure water, reciting verses while performing the bathing ritual. In fact, this is well recorded in Mahayana Buddhism, and the merit is quite great. Generally speaking, in places like Singapore, Malaysia, and Taiwan, and many other places, every day many lay practitioners recite verses and bathe the Buddha's image. Everyone should understand the meaning of this ritual. We should all be clear about the significance of the Buddha bathing ceremony. According to some Tibetan Buddhist bathing rituals, for example, one holds a mirror and the chant leader recites praises, such as verses praising Buddha Shakyamuni. After the praises, the bathing ceremony for the statue of Buddha Shakyamuni or for that Odi medicine Buddha is performed. While holding a treasure vase, the bathing is performed over the mirror. All the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions are visualized as being present in the mirror, and the bathing ritual is performed for them. This is a tradition. Or, for example, at some sacred mountains, when great masters need to perform a bathing ritual, the sacred mountain is visualized in the mirror, and the ritual is performed while reciting the liturgy. This is a very ancient tradition in Buddhism. There is no difference between Tibetan Buddhism and Han Buddhism in this regard, but as practitioners, we should understand the merit of these practices. If we don't understand the merit, we might think, oh, just sprinkling a little water on the Buddha statue, what's the use of that? It's easy to think this way. So we should be clear about the dependent origination and merit of doing this. The following verse also describes this. I bathe the Sugatas and Bodhisattvas from precious vases that have been filled full of water, imbued with many fragrances, accompanied by song and harmonies. The commentary explains it as follows. Here, precious vases filled with delightful scented water, blended with perfumes, and many golden and jeweled vases filled with flowers, are accompanied by music and song, inviting all the Sugatas and their Bodhisattva offspring to bathe. We fill these precious vases with fragrant water, incense and scented water, as well as flowers or nectar water and so on. We use golden vases, silver vases, sapphire vases, and other precious vases to bathe the images of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Meanwhile, music is also played during the recitation. Usually when we recite the Medicine Buddha Sutra or perform major rituals, there is always this bathing ceremony. Especially in Tibetan Buddhism, some chant leaders can recite hundreds of verses from memory. For example, they may recite a verse of homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, and then, instead of prostrating Shakyamuni Buddha, the verse is changed by the performing the bathing ritual. This is the usual practice. Then they chant the Buddha's names such as Buddha Shakyamuni, for Medicine Buddha, for the Buddha of the Western Pure Land, or the Buddha of the Eastern Pure Land, and so on, while performing the bathing ritual. Then, for the 8 great Bodhisattvas, or for Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, as well as for the 4 sacred sites, the 8 sacred sites, such as the site where the Buddha turned the wheel of Dharma. Sometimes, for a long period of time, they recite verses while performing the bathing ritual. They hold a precious vase performing the ritual, while recite these verses from the Bodhicharyavatara. This is common in Tibetan Buddhism. Whether it is the Gelug school or the Nyingma school, they all have this ritual. So in the future, if we see a bathing ritual for the Buddha being performed somewhere, for example on Manjushri's birthday, or during the Dragon Boat Festival, people also use various herbs to bathe themselves. I think it's fine to bathe in this way, or not to bathe. Either is acceptable. Or we can visualize our own body as the body of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. There's nothing wrong with that either. But what is truly most important is that during Buddha Shakyamuni's birthday, or on his festival days, performing the bathing ritual for the Buddha brings great merit. Bathing the Buddha on these occasions is truly of great merit. If you don't have this tradition, I think whether you are a monastic or a lay person, whether it's a bronze statue or a gold statue, you can at least dust them off from time to time. You should use clean water. If possible, wash them with clean water. Otherwise, some people's Buddha statues, stupas, and scriptures become very dirty, and in fact this shows a lack of respect for the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We keep ourselves very clean, washing every day, but let the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas covered in dust. That's probably not appropriate. I once visited a lay practitioner's home and stayed there for a while. At that time, they were probably renovating the bathroom. Their bathroom was the cleanest part of the house. The living area was fairly clean, but the shrine room was the dirtiest. I told them, this is completely upside down. According to tradition, the shrine room should be the cleanest, including the Buddha statues and everything inside. All the dust should be cleaned off. This is how it should be. As for your own living space, as long as it's reasonably clean, that's fine. But some people's behavior are completely reversed. Some Buddhists here, I don't know about your shrine rooms. Or if you don't have a special shrine room, just a few Buddha statues placed somewhere, then you should clean them from time to time. In the past, Some old practitioners in Tibetan Buddhism would often use feathers or peacock feathers to dust the Buddha statues, scriptures, or stupas. They would clean them every day, keeping them spotless. As practitioners, we should clean the Buddha statues and shrine rooms. We should understand this as a form of bathing. In order to purify the negative karma in our own mind stream, we should perform such rituals. In daily conduct, this is also indispensable. Next, let's talk about the next offering. 2. Drying. With cloths that are beyond compare and clean, infused with a fine scent, I dry their bodies, and then I offer them the finest robes, well dyed and most delightfully perfumed. So the second offering here is drying. After inviting the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, we perform the bathing ritual. After the bathing ritual, this is a tradition in India. In the past, for example, when a king arrived, when the king was invited to a palace, he would first bathe in a clean bathing chamber. After bathing and drying his body, offerings would be made. This is a tradition in India. This tradition continues today in places like Thailand and Sri Lanka. Such customs are still observed in these countries. For example, when great masters are invited to a patron's home or to any place, they are first invited to bathe or wash their face. When I was in Thailand, as soon as I entered a patron's home, they immediately brought a towel and said, "Please wash your face first." Before even sitting down, they would bring a basin. I think this is also a tradition. In the past, Geshe Sherab Gyatso from Tibetan Buddhism had a similar experience in Thailand. First, the government officials in Thailand brought water and asked him to wash his feet, which he found a bit unusual. It felt a bit strange to him. According to ancient Indian tradition in Buddhism, this was meant to purify the defilements in the mind streams of sentient beings. This is also a tradition. So here, after the bathing is finished, after the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have bathed, they are dried with cloths that are soft, clean, and infused with fine fragrance. In Tibetan Buddhist bathing rituals, after the recitation is finished, usually in the mirror, one holds a precious vase, reciting and performing the bathing. After bathing, one dries the body. For drying, a white kata is used. Then, in front of the mirror, the drying is performed, and after that, the mirror is placed in the shrine room, a pure place. This means that from then on, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are enshrined in a pure place. There is such a ritual. So here the point is the bodies of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas should be dried. As I mentioned earlier, in many Theravada countries, people also make such offerings to monastics. How do they make offerings? Every morning when monks go for alms, they prepare a lot of soap or towels to offer to the monks, so monks can use them to wash and dry their bodies. In this way, they accumulate a great deal of merit. Next, let's talk about the next offering. 3. Fine robes. After drying, various silks and satins are used to dress the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. For Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in monastic attire offer monastic robes and other fragrant fine garments suitable for monastics. For those noble ones who appear in lay attire, such as Manjushri and Avalokiteshvara, who appear in Sambhogakaya form, dressed as Indian royalty, some historians have explained it this way. Buddha Shakyamuni and Buddha Amitabha, in the form of a monastic Nirmanakaya, wear the 3 Dharma robes. So we offer the 3 Dharma robes to all monastic Sangha and noble ones in monastic form. And for those in lay appearance, we offer the 13 types of Sambhogakaya attire. Offer robes of various colors, soft and flowing. This also brings great merit. In daily life, some of our own clothing, or even clothes we are reluctant to wear, if we offer them to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas or to the Sangha in monasteries, this also brings great merit. For example, in the Sutras, there was a Bhikshuni called the white-robed Bhikshuni, also known as the White Mother. When she was born, she always wore white clothes. Later, when she ordained, the Buddha did not require her to change her white clothes. When we study the Abhidharmakosha, we learn that some beings are born with certain habitual clothing that they always wear. So even if you wear a red robe, you don't have to change. Wearing white is also fine. Later, she ordained and eventually attained arhathood. Some disciples asked Buddha Shakyamuni why she was still wearing white clothes even after attaining arhathood. Buddha Shakyamuni explained to them that In a previous life, there was a very poor couple who had only one piece of clothing. When one went out, the other had to stay in a dirt mound, not daring to get up as they had no clothes. The other would wear the clothes to go out to work. When one returned, the other would go out and the clothes would be handed over. One of them always had to stay in the dirt mound, not daring to come out. Later, when they heard of the Buddha's great merit, they offered their only clothing to the bhikshus and to the Buddha. After they making the offering, the local queen was so moved that she gave them all her own clothes and ornaments. In that life, they enjoyed abundant resources, and for many lifetimes, due to the merit of offering clothing, even up to the present, and in this life, she always wore white clothes. The Buddha taught about the merit of such offerings. So whenever we encounter such supreme fields as the Buddha, we should not hesitate to make offerings. If not, we offer clothing to the noble Buddhas and Bodhisattvas or to the Guru, which also brings great merit. In the 100 Deeds Sutra, there was a bhikshuni called the Bhikshuni of golden color. She was born with a golden-colored body, which was the result of offering fine robes to supreme fields in previous lives. Because of this, life after life, she was born with a particularly magnificent form. So in this world, we should understand the merit of offering fine robes. Of course, there are many such stories in the sutras, but I don't think we need to go through each one here. Next, fourth ornaments, I drape Samantabhadra, Lokeshvara, Manjushri, and the other noble beings with fabrics that are delicate and soft, and hundreds of the finest ornaments. In the commentary, they are adorned with hundreds of the finest crowns and ornaments, becoming the noble Samantabhadra, Manjushri, Avalokiteshvara, Vajrapani, Maitreya, and so on, who, according to the needs of sentient beings, appear in lay form as great bodhisattvas. Next, we offer all kinds of ornaments, such as gold necklaces, flower garlands, golden chains, and so on. These ornaments should also be offered before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. After we visualize the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, we performed the bathing, then we dried the bodies, then we offered fine robes. And after offering fine robes, we offer ornaments. If you only wear clothes without any ornaments, it doesn't look very nice. You should wear a necklace around your neck. If you don't have a necklace, you can hang your mala around your neck. This also counts as an ornament, so we should offer ornaments. The merit of offering ornaments is also quite great. In Tibetan Buddhism, His Holiness often spoke about this in class. When Lord Atisha came to Tibetan regions to spread the Dharma, there was a rather wealthy woman who developed great faith in Lord Atisha's words and actions. And she then offered all the gold and silver ornaments she wore to Lord Atisha. When she returned home, her husband scolded and beat her repeatedly and kept berating her. Eventually, she could not bear it any longer and threw herself into a river and died. When Lord Atisha heard this news, he appeared to be very sad and dedicated merit to her. After the master showed great sorrow and dedicated merits, she was immediately reborn as a human and became a young monk. Later, she ordained in Atisha's presence and became a great master of the Kadam school. What was the name of this master? His Holiness mentioned it before, but I have forgotten. This is also clearly recorded in some historical texts. So, if you have gold and silver ornaments on your body, when a person dies, these become the ornaments of the next person, the next generation. They are not very meaningful. It is better to offer them to Buddha statues or truly supreme fields of merit. Some people offer all their precious ornaments to their guru, but I think the guru should be carefully examined first. If you do not properly examine the guru and offer all your best ornaments to someone called a guru and later realize he is not a genuine teacher, you may regret it, which is not so good. If you want to make offerings, I think it is safest and most reliable to offer to Buddha statues or to Buddha images. For example, some people offer their gold necklaces and all their precious ornaments to magnificent Buddha statues, hanging them around the Buddha's neck. I think in most monasteries, people would not misuse them. No one has the right or qualification to do so. So the safest and most reliable way is to offer to the Buddha, to Buddha statues. Offering your ornaments to Buddha statues also brings great merit. We have studied this before in the extensive biography of Buddha Shakyamuni, and there are many such stories in other scriptures as well. But I think we don't need to go into all of them today. In short, when you generate such motivation, you must make aspirations. Through such offerings and such motivation, may countless sentient beings receive benefit, and may we always have an altruistic mind. No matter what good deeds you do, you should never forget your virtuous intention and always remind yourself of this. If you do so, in the future you will become a truly great master who spreads the Dharma, or an extraordinary practitioner. I think you should always keep this in mind. You are not doing this just to gain temporary benefits of human or gods for yourselves. You must always generate an altruistic mind. This is extremely important. All right, we will stop here for today.
Bandhangara Padmasada Bandhangara Padmasada